Okay, there are three things that are really important in order to keep your bees alive through the winter, and actually even in the summer for some of this. The first is you got to treat for mites. I know there are a lot of people out there that think that they can sprinkle a little powdered sugar on their bees. There's some other ways, and those may be very well and good. The issue is that the bee population is like one large population. So if one of your neighbor's bees or some feral hive in a tree nearby has mites, there's a very high likelihood that they're going to transport over to your bees very quickly. Now, of course, with beekeeping, there's 10 opinions for every answer. That's my opinion. And my weapon of choice is oxalic acid. So just to kind of give you a sense of the equipment. So this is the vaporizer. You just hook these up to your battery, your car battery. You can just take your car battery off and put them on. The oxalic acid you can just get, from your local hardware store. I know it sounds scary to call it wood bleach, but lemon juice is a very prolific cleaner. So as scary as wood bleach sounds, oxalic acid is a natural ingredient that's found in spinach leaves and rhubarb, some other things, and it's very effective because it basically absorbs through the whatever you call them, the paws, the hands of the mites, and kills them. It doesn't harm the bees, and so because the bees can't absorb it, and so when you vaporize it, it spreads throughout the colony box, your hive box, and coats everything. It kills any mites that are larva form in open brood. The one challenge is it doesn't kill mites in cap brood. And so if you use it during the season when there's a lot of brood in your hive, you can get an absolute coverage by just doing 3 oxalic treatments every 5 or 6 days apart. Maybe even 7. 7 might be pushing it. But I know a lot of us work during the week, and so we have to do it on the weekend. So maybe one week you do it on a Sunday, the next week you do it on a Saturday, the following Saturday, and then the third time you do it on a Saturday. I'm guessing it would kill your bees. There are people who say just oxalic your bees about once a month and it knocks them down so far that you don't have problems. This year I was actually too busy, so I wasn't able to do an oxalic treatment right after honey harvest. And so, I did one, but I didn't do two. I didn't do a multiple. So I don't know if I hurt my bees. I was just gone and I didn't have time. So I'm going to actually do it today. It's a little bit warmer day. I understand you have to have about 55 degrees. We're going to be in the 60s or 70s here today. So I'm going to go out. It's about 58 right now. So I'm going to go out first thing in the morning and do this. Anyway, late in the year, there is very little brood, so it's even more effective. I know a lot of people use the chemicals in the summer and then the oxalic in the fall and in the spring. I have only used strictly oxalic acid. So I use it in the fall on a warm day. I use it in the spring early on a warm day. And then typically right after honey harvest, I'll zap it at least 2 weeks in a row, and the target is for 3. One of the things I recommend getting, it's really convenient to have, is this is a teaspoon measurement. You could probably buy your own. You don't necessarily have to buy it from a honey supply store, but it's just nice to have because I just leave it in this plastic bag after I'm done, so none of the oxalic gets spilled on anything, and it just measures it easy. And basically, you put 1 teaspoon for each deep box. So all my colonies are 2 deeps, so I use 2 teaspoons. So that's the first thing. The second thing you have to do is you have to feed your bees. So feeding. So after you honey harvest, typically it's about that time that the area is in a dearth, and so your bees aren't going to collect anything. So they're going to use up any stores they have in their deeps, and you've already taken everything they've stored in their super. Some areas, I know there's a fall honey flow, and that may be enough. In my area, we didn't really have a dearth in August like we usually do because we had lots of rain, so I thought I was okay. And then it got really hot and all the goldenrod dried up for September. And normally in September when we have our normal honey flow, there wasn't really anything. And it was, again, that time I was just so busy out of town, I didn't get a chance to feed them. So I've been feeding them sugar syrup, heavily for the last 6 weeks or so. There's a lot of different feeders. You can find your favorite. I forget what I use a couple of things. I forget what they call it. Maybe the ultimate feeder. It's a blue canister, holds about a gallon, and it flips down into a base, and it drips out like a dog water dish. But you have to have your hives perfectly level, or else it doesn't work. And I find it rains and my hives settle a little bit more and they're uneven. Anyway, that can be kind of a pain. The other feeder I have is one of those square ones that fit inside, right on top of the inner cover. The only thing I don't like about it is it really prevents your box from breathing. So anyway, but feeding, there's a lot of videos on feeding, and I use 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, because why give them a bunch of extra water in the fall? So they need to dry that all out, and so I just do 2 for 1. These things you're looking at are Ziploc bags, and this is what I call my sugar mush mix. I mix 9 parts sugar, 1 part water, and these are a little different this year because I had some extra sugar water left over. I didn't want it to waste, so I try to just kind of jimmy rig it and make it mix so it's relatively thick. But if you're starting from scratch, I use 9 parts sugar, 1 part water. Usually start the day before so the water has the chance to absorb all the way through the sugar. And then basically what I do is I cut a little hole about the size of a quarter right here. And then I have these winter tops that I use in place of the inner cover, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I basically just flip the bag over on top of those covers, and I'll show you those covers right now. All right, so this is the winter feeder cover that I use, and you can kind of see right in the middle there. That's you can see it's all propolized from last year. That's where I flip over the open Ziploc bag of sugar. All right, and so I actually bought these, but I built them. I mean, I built one for my own. I built one for my own use for a nuke box where I kept a nuke alive last winter. So basically, trying to do this by myself here. So you can see this lip right here. That measures about 1.5 inches. All right, and then on the other side, there's a little lip here, about 1/2 inch to keep bee space when you put this on top of your deep. The other thing is, you can see in each corner it has about a 1-inch hole for ventilation. That works really good. And then the other thing I do is when I put on the outer cover, I typically put one of those sticks that you mix paint with, about that high, in the very front of the box, and leave it for extra ventilation. So the box gets plenty of ventilation. And for the most part, since the bees are going to be in the middle clustered right underneath the sugar, it keeps the sugar, and then they literally walk up through this space into the bag, and over the winter it starts with a small hole, and you can see bees all winter, and then they eat out from the inside out in the sugar, and it seems to work really well. So I learned this from one of the local beekeepers. This guy actually is the one that built this box, but like I said, I built one for myself for a nuke box I had that I kept a nuke alive last winter. So those are the 3 steps I use to keep my bees alive, and I'm a relatively new beekeeper, but so far I've had success, and I'm a big believer in the effectiveness of oxalic. It's got about a 99% kill rate, and as far as I have done all the reading on it, it doesn't harm the bees at all, and it is a natural substance. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Happy to help based on my limited knowledge. Alrighty, that's about it. Have a great day.